So why don't I invest in ESG funds? And for reference, ESG funds are mutual funds that are invested in the stocks of environmentally and socially responsible corporations. I don't invest in ESG funds because what I see is that the problems with the stock market are systemic and they apply to every corporation that's listed on the stock exchange. Let me explain and give some examples. This is the essence of the system. The primary job of the CEO is to increase earnings each and every year without fail. That's the job. It isn't to make the world a better place. It isn't to care about people. It's not to employ people. It's not to care about the environment or the community. It's all about doing what you need to do to make one number get larger every year. And that number is earnings, which is another word for profits. You might say, isn't that fine? Isn't it possible for a corporation to make a lot of profit and then also do things that are good for people and the environment and the planet? And that's a great question. And the answer is, it might actually look like that for a little while, but ultimately the answer is no. As a CEO, you can care about, track, and report all the metrics you want. But the very minute your profit number stops growing, the analysts are going to tell the market that the sky is falling and the price of your stock in the market is going to fall dramatically. And that's going to reduce the valuation of the company that you're charged with leading and running. That's not going to look good on you as a CEO. Here's an example. In the early days when Whole Foods was alone in their niche and the market wasn't flooded with or saturated with organic groceries and organic grocers, John Mackey, as the CEO, did some really interesting things. He hired interesting people. He shared profits. He capped executive salaries. He allowed non-executive staff to participate in stock options. He did a lot of really cool stuff. And then eventually, as always will happen, the space got a lot more competitive and saturated. Lots of new players, lots of old players moving more into the organic space. And this made it much harder for John Mackey as the CEO to continue increasing his profits, the profits of this corporation, every single year for infinity. So there's no room for compromise on the earnings targets. So you have to compromise on something else. And that's what these corporations always end up doing. They compromise off their other values. And those of us who have been around for a minute have seen it happen, have felt it happen at Whole Foods. You can see it in the reduction of the food quality. You can see it in the increase of the prices. And you can feel it from the employees who don't feel as highly prized as the ones we recall in the beginnings of Whole Foods. So what eventually happened to Whole Foods? It was acquired. By who? By Amazon. This corporation that would have probably qualified as an ESG investment got acquired by Amazon. And Amazon is most definitely not an ESG corporation. So you see what happened there? Here's another quick example. Google used to be adamantly anti-censorship. They actually had a motto, which was "Don't be evil." Their leadership said, we're not ever going to censor any Google results. In fact, in 2010, they actually pulled Google out of China because they were under a lot of pressure to censor according to the desires of the Chinese government. But then what happened? There was all of this pressure over time as they got larger and larger and larger and needed to continue to grow earnings, to grow profits every year. And then there was all of this pressure from shareholders to grow those profits, to get back on track. And then Google kind of had to decide what's more important, not censoring anything or taking more market share. So ultimately, they decided that some censorship is just okay. And now they regularly remove and tweak results to improve their market share and their business performance. So there was a time when Google would have qualified as an ESG company, but the system ultimately forces compromise on any and every other value that might impede profit growth. So these examples illustrate how investing in an ESG fund is just another way of incubating the same bad profit-driven systems. We can do better. We can invest in small businesses. We can invest in community. We can invest in each other. Let's find alternatives and do them together.